In Nigeria, faith isn't just a belief system. It's a powerful currency. So what happens when that currency gets traded for political power? Well, that's what we're diving into today. This idea of a sacred marketplace, a place where the pulpit is basically for sale, and you can bet the politicians are the highest bidders.
So it really makes you wonder, right? Can something as personal and sacred as spiritual authority actually be bought and sold? I mean, can you put a price tag on it? In Nigeria, it seems the answer is a pretty clear yes. And this isn't some deep philosophical debate we're having. No, it's a very real, very calculated political strategy. Okay, let me give you a really stark example from the 2023 elections. Picture this. A political rally is going on, and suddenly, a group of men dressed in clerical robes shows up. They look like they're there to endorse the ruling party. But then, almost immediately, the Christian Association of Nigeria comes out and says, hold on a second, these guys are imposters. Turns out, they were just hired to fake Christian support. Wild, right? Yeah, this whole thing got dubbed the Colony of Bishops scandal, and it was all a direct response to the ruling APC party's really controversial decision to run a Muslim ticket. The goal was simple and pretty cynical, if you ask me. Create the illusion of Christian support where there wasn't any. It was pure political theater, but it also blew the lid off a much bigger system at play.
So, that brings us to our first section here. We're calling it Apolitical Theater, unveiling the mechanisms of manufactured consent. Let's pull back the curtain and really see how this stuff works.
So to really get this, you have to understand something crucial about Nigeria. Religion is not a fringe issue. We're talking about a country where over 90% of the population is either Christian or Muslim. That means the pulpit, well, it's a direct line to millions and millions of people. This gives religious leaders an incredible amount of power. And you can imagine, their endorsements, they're basically electoral gold.
And this whole situation has given rise to a specific term, clerical capture. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's the process where political actors co-opt or basically take over religious authority for their own gain. And how do they do it? Mostly through money, financial patronage. They are, in effect, buying the loyalty of the pulpit.
And if you want to know how blatant it is, just listen to this leaked audio from a journalist talking about Nigerian campaigning. He said, it's very transactional. There's no ideology behind it. Pay me and I'll tweet whatever you want me to. Wow, I mean, the logic is brutally simple. Pay me. And that transactional mindset has totally infected what's supposed to be a sacred space. It's turning blessings into billable hours and sermons into, sponsored content.
Okay, so now let's talk about the money. Section 2, the price of a prayer. We're going to look at the staggering financial scale of this sacred marketplace.
All right, look at this number, 2.2 billion naira. That is a staggering amount of money. And it came to light during the Dasukigate scandal, this huge controversy where a ton of money that was supposed to go towards fighting insurgency just vanished. So the big question was, where did it all go? Well, the answer is pretty shocking. It was budgeted for, get this, prayers to win the war against Boko Haram. I mean, let that sink in. While soldiers were on the front lines, literally lacking ammunition, the government was spending billions to buy spiritual support. It just tells you everything you need to know about the misplaced priorities at the heart of this system.
And believe me, that was not just a one-off thing. More recently, you had a government minister accusing a really prominent primate of demanding 150 million naira for spiritual intercession. But here's the kicker. The primate's defense wasn't, I would never do that. No, his defense was to mock the minister, saying he was a small boy and that his shoes cost more than that. So the argument wasn't about whether it was right or wrong, it was about the price tag. So what's the real cost of all this? That brings us to our third section. Democracy under threat. Because this isn't just about a crisis of faith. It's a direct threat to Nigeria's democracy. Let's get into how this system chips away at accountability and really just tears the country apart.
Traditionally, the role of a cleric is supposed to be that of a prophet, right? Someone who speaks truth to power, who provides a moral compass. But clerical capture completely flips that on its head. It turns these prophets into propagandists. Instead of calling out the state, they're sanctioning its excesses, all in exchange for money and access. And the 2023 election was a perfect example of religion being used as a weapon, and it happened on all sides. You had some Islamic clerics framing the APC's ticket as a kind of jihad or divine mandate. At the same time, that viral Yes Daddy audio caught a major Christian candidate, Peter Obi, framing the whole election as a religious war. So what happens? Elections stop being civic contests about policy and become these toxic holy wars.
So how do you actually do this? How do you manufacture consent when it's not really there? Well, there's a playbook for it, and it's a pretty cynical four-step process. First, you create a controversy, like running a same-faith ticket. Second, you hire actors, your fake bishops, to stage an endorsement. Third, you fund junkets, sponsoring religious pilgrimages that are really just campaign events. And finally, you give patronage to clerics who will give you the theological justification you need.
And let's zoom in on that pilgrimage part for a second. Look at this number. In 2023 alone, just 1 year, the Nigerian government spent nearly 15 billion naira, that's 14.84 billion, on state-sponsored religious trips.
Now, on paper, this money is for spiritual upliftment, but let's be real. It's often an electoral investment. You'll see campaign posters plastered all over the buses. These sacred journeys get turned into partisan junkets, and this creates this awful cycle of dependency where religious leaders end up trading their critical, prophetic voice for state funding and a seat at the table.
Okay, this all leads us to the final choice, the big question here. Part 4, marketplace or watchtower? Are Nigeria's religious institutions going to be a marketplace where faith is just another commodity? Or will they be a watchtower, standing guard over the nation's conscience?
Because this isn't just a political crisis, it's a theological one. For Christians, it goes directly against the story of Jesus driving the money changers from the temple. For Muslims, the faith warns against trading divine truth for worldly gain. What you get instead is this theology of convenience, where sacred principles are bent to justify whatever is financially or politically convenient.
So, the two paths are incredibly clear. You have the courtier, who trades their voice for access, who blesses the status quo, who offers prayers for payment. And then you have the watchtower, the one who speaks uncomfortable truths, who sounds the alarm, who offers moral correction for free. It's a stark choice.
And for Nigerian democracy, which path will it be? I mean, the health of the entire system might just hang in the balance. Is the nation's moral compass going to be sold off to the highest bidder, or will it stand as a beacon of integrity? The answer to that question will define not just the country's fate, but its entire future.